Well, welcome back to the Better Divorce podcast. And you may know who I am. My name is Paulette Rigo, and I'm your, I don't know, huggable, lovable host. But today we're going to get into a deep conversation that I've been wanting to talk about lately about shifting your mindset from victim to thriving. And how do you do that? Well, look no further. I have an amazing guest who is from Australia. So be careful of the accent. You're going to love her. Her name is Kate Cruickshank. And welcome to the show, Kate. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we have a mutual friend, and I met Shelley in London last August. Not this August, but the August before. I was trying to remember what month it was, August of 2024, when she and I were studying. We had the honor of being one of, I don't know, 30, 40 coaches, therapists, mental health practitioners, people in the field of uh, trauma-informed work. And we worked with Dr. Ramani in London for 4 days. And it was eye-opening to not listen to her, as a audience member, but to really work with her and ask questions and have expert panel. And Shelley and I sat at the same table together, and we became instant. Just, I don't know, we just bonded immediately, shared enough of ourselves personally, but also professionally, and the work that she's now doing and the work I do specifically in divorce. So Shelley introduced you and I, Kate. So hi, Shelley. Love you, my dear. And you and Shelley both reside in the Dallas, Texas area. Of course, I'm in Atlanta, but who cares? I work with people all over the country and beyond. As you know, obviously, my publisher and editor, Kate Steed, is Australian too, as well. So I'm kind of used to that. So I wanted to thank Shelley out there for the introduction, the graceful introduction. It's always great when I can connect with people firsthand. I'm perfectly happy to talk to people that I don't know too, but it's always nice, right? It's just that really special bond. So I love that. But just a bit about Kate and why she is the perfect person to have this conversation with. Kate is a board certified nurse coach. Didn't know there was such a thing, but I aim to learn something new every day. And she specializes in helping people who are navigating the cancer journey. And I believe that many women get ill because of the stress due to divorce. Now, I'm not diagnosing, I'm not a medical professional, so lay back, but I do see the trauma, the stress affecting the body a lot. I've seen it firsthand. So this is a great, dare I say, marriage. She's also a registered nurse and is passionate about empowering people who are faced with life's greatest challenges. Well, let's just say divorce and cancer have to be two of them. She's also a successful artist who uses the profits from her prints to provide pro bono coaching for people unable to afford coaching services. So let's talk a little bit about your journey, who you are, and why you do what you do. Because you've told me a little bit about it, and I don't have my notes here, but I'm gonna be taking notes. So why do you do what you do? Tell me your story. This is
Thank you.
fascinating.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, Shelley, for putting us together and connecting. Oh gosh, why do I do what I do? I think, it's interesting when you get into your 50s and you tend to have a few more of those moments of reflection. And generally by your 50s, you get to this point in life, not unscathed. And that's part of the beauty. We're here to go through, well, for the majority of us anyway, massive personal growth and challenge. And I'm a big believer that in this lifetime, it's really not meant to be easy. We have ebbs and flows, and you just hope you have really great people around when you're going through the great stuff. And you hope you have even better people around when you're going through the really hard stuff. And, even from when I was very little, I grew up in Papua New Guinea until I was about 8. And my father had cancer, and MS. And in those days of the 70s, there really wasn't a whole lot of treatment. And cancer therapy was in its earliest stages, and they were trying to work out, what dose was effective and what dose was too much. And so I had a lot of time on my own while, my mum was juggling my sister and I and treatment and a very unwell husband who was, only in his 30s. So I had time to run around and I used to collect butterfly wings. That was my little treasure hunt. And I used to find them. We were right on the edge of the jungle, and the butterfly wings that I would find had jagged edges, and the butterfly gets consumed very quickly by the other little insects in the jungle, and it's all very effective waste management. But the wings were left, and I would find these wings, and they were iridescent and they were jagged and they were amazing to me. And I used to just sit there, there was nothing else to do, so I'd sit there and kind of daydream about the life that the butterfly had lived, and the adventures and the dangers and the challenge, and it really fixated me, and it sort of carried through. And then we came to Australia, and I went through schooling. Unfortunately, my father passed away. He was in one of the earliest chemotherapy trials and was given a lethal dose of treatment that killed him. But it had great value to work out what is a therapeutic level and what's not. So the cancer side sort of touched me enormously there, as I'd spent a lot of time with nurses and sitting in the hospital room with my dad. And as a child, that's quite overwhelming. And then I sort of went through the schooling, teenage weird years and all the rest of it, and decided that I wanted to help people, and decided that nursing was something that I could travel with. I loved human biology, and I thought, okay, this is something that I can hopefully make a difference in some way. And so I kind of had an entire career in the ER, ICU, neurology, and then oncology. And I thought, okay, oncology is my, excuse me, my sweet spot. Excuse me. And I thought, right, okay, well, I wonder if I can marry together other skills that I have, which were meditation, breath work, and coaching. The nursing stream it's about 10 years old, a subspecialty with health and wellness coaching, which makes sense because we're doing it all day long anyway. But you can specialize in that. And it seemed to combine beautifully my career. And so I focused on that, and I did a pilot study with my infusion patients in a very busy cancer center here in Dallas. And my boss was extraordinary and allowed me to do a pilot study. And it was fantastic. So I really took the person from their very first infusion, went through how to supercharge your nutrition, how to correct your mindset, how to, well, not correct, but to shift your perspective, to really maximize the benefits of the treatment, to allow your body to bounce back, to build resilience. And it was enormously successful. So last year I decided to switch it up and do it full time, because the pressures of time in a very busy clinic would not allow me to do what I do well. You know, you need time to sit with someone. You can't rush um, that kind of work.
No.
So that's sort of what I do now. And yes, I have an art business, which was my way of filling my own cup. And when I went through my divorce, it was an enormous blessing.
Mm,
It, um, it paid for my legal fees. It got me out of a situation that I couldn't see my way out of,
mm,
um, and things were very divinely guided. I like to think, and now that outlet, and I paint a lot of butterflies. They're very symbolic to me for that transformational change, no matter what you're going through, whether it's divorce or some kind of life threatening illness.
mhm,
um, and so I always paint my wings too with jagged edges to show the hard bits, the adventurous bits, the challenge. And with cancer treatment too, it especially in America, is expensive, and not everybody can afford to have their own private advocate going through and working out their labs and telling them what they should ask and how they should do it and
wow.
guiding them with their wellness.
But I could see
Um,
how helpful that would be. I mean, just
Look,
profoundly transformative having that support.
it's something that, having worked in oncology for quite a number of years, and seeing so many people not have anyone in their family in a medical background, not even have a great friendship network, or, unless you've walked that walk, it's really hard to know just what it's like.
What you're up
And yeah, and it was something that I saw was desperately needed. And I guess when, often nurses, we like to think they are empathetic creatures. And, when you do see that pain and that loneliness and that, what do I do? I don't even know how to get up. I don't know how to get through tomorrow. you know I don't know how to read this lab report. I don't know how to read this MRI report. I don't know what questions to ask. It's just so overwhelming. It's too much. So yeah, it's like I put my hand up and say, I'll help you.
I can help. Look no further. I love the fact that you brought up the butterfly. If you notice on Better Divorce Academy's website, my logo is, yes, a butterfly. In fact, all of my clients, I receive annually, I give them a necklace and it has the logo and it's a butterfly on there. And I've been impacted by that for many reasons, but many years ago, I was probably about, my late 20s, early 30s, someone gave me a card with a quote of, just when the caterpillar thought the world
Mhm,
was coming to an end, she became a butterfly. And
mhm,
this was at the point in my life where I was really struggling, deeply struggling with the career I'd had, and how I felt that I allowed everyone else to make my decisions for me,
mhm,
out of obligation and being the golden child and the perfect person, and just like I have to do what I'm told, and even if it hurts and it doesn't feel right and all those other things, I always felt like I was living someone else's life. And of course that even felt deeper on the level of the marriage, just felt very uncomfortable too. So there I was, trapped into this world of, the job and the marriage. And when I received this card, it really hit home with me, like, just when the caterpillar thought the world
mhm.
was coming to an end, because it really did feel like it was coming to an end. Like,
Oh,
if I
yeah.
if I quit this job, like, well, oh well, there goes the family, and well, that pretty much happened. And then if I quit the marriage, well, there goes that, and well, that pretty much happened. So, and to be able to have that resiliency and courage and strength to get through that, to move forward and through it, There are very few examples that I had in my life of that. So, um, not to switch topics, but I am very moved by the strength of Erica Kirk with her speaking the other day. I think it was Friday, with just her ability and within 48 hours to have that kind of strength and poise
Mm.
was really. There were no examples back 30, 40 years ago like her. So, I'm always struck by courage and
Yes.
poise and grace and that sort of resilience,
Mm.
genuinely so, not from an acting point of view, but truly
Right.
to walk that. And I had no examples of that. I didn't
Mm.
really know that. My grandmother was probably the one, but even she would be, I don't know, put the wig on and the makeup and be, I'm going to use the word inauthentic about
Mm.
it. Not that it was fake in the sense that she was pretending, but there weren't a lot of role models for me of what that would look like. I
Right.
always was told as a dancer, what are we taught? The show must go on, be a trooper. Never let them see you sweat. Suck it up. That was
Mhm.
not a quote, but that kind of mindset.
Put on a
And I
brave
did that
face.
for so long in every aspect of my life that it got me in trouble, you know?
Mm.
So when I finally broke, transformed into the butterfly, I was actually rejected by a lot of people for having the courage to do that, right? So let's talk a little
Mm.
bit about your story, because you started to tell me. So you're in this marriage, and what happened? You wanted out?
I was in this marriage and relationship for almost 20 years,
Hmm.
so from a very young age. And, as you do, you think you're marrying the love of your life. And I think my experiences as a child, and having not had a father, and had a few other life experiences that perfectly shaped, I think, my personality at the time to want to be, I don't know, I felt I needed to prove my worth. I felt I needed to be the best wife I could be. I could be the best mother I could be. I could do it all. I could, solve all his problems. I could be there for him in every capacity. And I think, in having that mindset of the time, it's phenomenal for the other person. It's really great. And
Laundry's always done. The house
right,
is always
right.
clean.
And
Children's
while
always
that
cared for. And
right,
yeah,
and whilst that
painting
is
is taken
happening,
care of, all of it. Yeah.
yeah, while that's happening, you're keeping the peace. You're being the good wife. You're being the good mother. You're juggling things. It kind of shifted into, I was at home with my children, which is a very fortunate position to be in, and I was well aware of that. And I loved that, and that was something that yes, I chose to do, but I kind of thought that um, it would be a partnered situation, in that, okay, yes, we have these amazing kiddos, but maybe give me a couple of hours break for rest, for doing things where you feel partnered, I guess. After that length of time, I felt extremely alone in the things that I struggled with as I grew up, and as I matured, and as I came into myself. Really, I was doing it alone, and um, my stresses and my experiences were not met with genuine concern. And it was very much, look, suck it up, because what I'm dealing with is so much more. So you're just a housewife. And, I think for me, the turning point, I had little kiddies, age 4 and 5, and I'd gone in for a well woman exam, and I had been told, okay, we've got some changes here. You need to have some biopsies and follow up. And then, as time went on over the weeks, and my husband traveled a lot, I was told, okay, you've got stage or grade 4 cell change, and you have cervical cancer, and you have 12 months to live. So if you had, this was the personality of this, specialist. It was quite extraordinary. I felt like I was dealing with Europe or something. But he said, yeah, so if you have kids, you need to start making some videos, or record some messages, because you're not going to be here in 12 months. And I was fully expecting him to say, oh no, it was a false, positive, and you're fine. But it wasn't that. And I ended up referring myself to MD Anderson and having surgery down there and treatment. But my partner was very much of the mindset of, you're fine, you're always fine, don't be negative, just get on with it. So again, I wasn't met with compassion, genuine concern. It was fobbed off, and my mother came out and stayed with me for 2 months after the surgery, and you know once he'd got back, I was met with, oh, you look great, oh, look, you've lost some weight. And it's kind of like those little things start to add up,
Sure.
and you have more and more WTF moments that you just think, hang on, what? And then as it was unfortunate, and companies collapsed, and jobs were unstable, and there was a huge amount of pressure, and my response to that enormous pressure was left. It was like, we don't need to worry about you as well, Kate. Let's just focus on me and getting me through it. And by that stage, I was tanked. I was empty. I was done. I was borderline suicidal. I could not see how I could even get through the next week. It was like I was heartbroken. I was feeling distraught. I was not working, and I thought, how the hell am I have no choices. I don't know what to do. And it was a period of a couple of years, and it was a huge amount of soul searching. It was very confronting, with the, how did things get this way? How did my fairy tale turn out like this? What how? And then I'm the kind of mother and wife that I don't want to be. And it got to a point where I thought, okay, what kind of woman do I want my children to see as a role model? I don't want to be this person, this weak, I have no options, I don't know what to do, and I can't do anything. And it got to that point where it's that moment within yourself that you go from that victim mentality, and I don't mean victim mentality as a put down to myself, because I truly believed I was doing everything I could. But in hindsight, it was, yes, it's like, so get up. When you go, I need to get up. I can't get up. I don't know how to get up. And you kind of get in your own way.
Yes.
And so it was all of those things building up. And then it came to the point of, And I did a lot of reading and a lot of listening to a lot of podcasts and things where I just thought, I'm in charge of this. What? Who am I waiting for to save me? I'm waiting for me. And I have to do this because I want to write a different ending. I don't like this. And I guess you have to get to that level of discomfort
Yeah.
that you just say, hell to the no. This is not who I am. I am so much more powerful and I have more value than you are telling me that I have. And if not now, when? And I don't want to be, if I'm fortunate enough to get to 80 years of age
Mhm.
and look back and think, I wonder what would have happened if I'd stepped up. I wonder what would have happened if I'd chosen me, if I'd poured all the energy that I was pouring into this marriage that was in chaos. And what if I pour that into me? And what if I pour that into finding my own legs and my own stability? And what if I can be the most extraordinary role model to my boys? And what if I can rebuild and become what I'm meant to become? Because this can't be it. This can't be it. Life cannot end now. Hell no. There's more to do. I've got bigger things, bigger fish to fry. So what am I going to do about it? And then you're back to the, oh, shoot. I don't know. And then, you kind of work through those stages.
Yeah.
And for me, I confided in a friend. I'm a very private person. So, and with what I was experiencing in an extremely narcissistic relationship was that isolation. I got very good at being alone.
Mm.
And I didn't trust people. And I knew that if I did share something, if it got back, then it's so much worse for me. And I didn't know what could happen. And I had real fear, and I had huge concerns for my safety and what could happen. And this friend put me in touch with the Family Place, which is a domestic violence shelter in Dallas. And I went through over a year of counseling with them. Excuse me. And it was the turning point, the singly most humbling experience. I was someone who didn't fit the regular mold of, and I'm sitting there one Sunday afternoon in a waiting room by myself and at my rock bottom. And what I felt emotionally was my rock bottom. And thinking, how the hell did I get here? I'm an educated, smart person. How did I let this happen? But it's very easy to let it happen. It happens all the time. So, but you beat yourself up. And then I was given the gift of someone listening with no judgment,
Mm.
which is huge. I had someone who listened without telling me what to do. So I came to realizations on my own, other than basic safety things. I was given the tools to say, okay, you need to get your paperwork in order. You need to have a plan. You need to have a go bag if things get, a little out of line, and you need to be safe. I had all of these that I needed to be realistic and prepare for. And I had to take a big breath, and I had to just keep moving forward one day at a time. It was too big to think big picture. It was overwhelming. So
I'm
it's like,
very positive that you were able to do that, honestly. Many people do catastrophize and feel extremely heavy and burdened and weighted down by the
Right.
what if, or where am I going to live? How am I going to pay my bills? What,
Right.
all of that, instead of just looking at it like today. I have to
Right.
be safe. The children have to be safe. I need an exit strategy. Um, so when you shared earlier with me that when you either had the courage to say, to either file or tell him, I want a divorce, I'm not sure which came first, and that he said to you something to the effect of, no,
Yeah.
always be married
Oh,
to me.
yeah. I mean, this is the
Talk
man
us about
who
that.
who
That's a big tipping point there. How did
yeah,
that
it's
happen?
terrifying. This is someone, and both of us, when we got married, had decided, this was a one and done. This was the fairy tale. This was my person.
This is it.
Um, albeit there were many signs along the way, where you just think, okay, this is someone, and he really never wanted to get married. I think it was more the fact that I had said it was something I wanted, and I wanted children,
Mm.
and it sort of forced someone who probably should never have into a position where they did, but um, and so once I got to my absolute limit, and I could see no way out, and I wasn't being listened to, and all the things that you were trying to fix along the way, in communicating and saying, this is so hard and I don't know how to do this. And it's got to get easier for me to be able to stay. This has got to be a partnership. This has got to be equal. Um, and then when I said, I want out, I'm done. And I was met with, that's never going to happen. You're never not going to be married to me, which was terrifying because I could see an entire life of punishment, shame, and belittlement because I'd chosen something different. I'd chosen me. I'd chosen to stand up. And when you are in an extreme situation of and narcissism is thrown around a lot, but absolutely, um, it carries weight and it's terrifying because you don't know what's happening next, and you're. For me, I was in a situation where it was very strategically and deliberately. The behavior was displayed in a way to frighten me and to make me fear and to try and shrink me back to what I was. Go back. And it's like, no, she's out. She can't go back.
Well, that intimidation
Right.
factor, that control factor,
It's
is one of the
massive.
very common tactics that
Yes.
these type of spouses will use to manipulate and control and
Yeah.
intimidate out of fear. No one will ever love you the way I do. You're not strong enough, tall enough, rich enough, pretty enough, smart enough. But,
Mm.
here's a long list, enough to get by without me. Who do you
Right.
think you are, wanting something different, something better, something grander, something, whatever you're seeking, uh,
Right.
different? You're going to destroy the family. How dare you? Uh,
Yeah.
it's all your fault. How could you destroy something so, beautiful, fabulous, wonderful?
Right.
Um, do you understand the damage that you're going to be? Sorry, there's this little bug. Do you
Yeah.
understand the damage that you'll be doing to? It wants to fly right in my nose. Or do you understand the damage that you're doing to the children, to us,
Mm.
to the family? Um,
Right.
all the threats, the coercive control attitude,
Right.
right?
So I had a lot of that. I never had the no one could love you as much as me because
Mm.
he didn't. But I was a possession.
Of
I was
course.
a possession that I don't want you,
Mm.
but I don't want anyone else to have you.
Right, right. I get it.
And when others see your value and you start becoming a little braver,
Hmm.
then it's the threat, it's the shame, it's
It,
the,
it is threatening to them. Yeah.
oh, I mean, I had, you know,
So there you go.
yeah, I had real concern for the fear of what was next. And I had to, that was probably the biggest thing to overcome. And at that stage, by that time, I had sat the American board exam for nursing and got my credentials back after, gosh, 12, 13 years out of nursing. And I was, so when I filed, I was also working um, in an ER. I jumped straight back into the ER as crazy people do, and because it was what I knew best, and I had it was that, or I didn't know what. That was what I knew. So as hard as it is, I had to do that, and it's a 12-hour shift, and my children were in middle school, and my husband was away, and so my kids had to, you know, be grow up really quick and say, okay, well, mum's working at the hospital. I need to reheat my dinner after school. We were walking distance from school. Heat up dinner. Mum will be home soon. Put yourselves to bed. I mean, you do what you have to do to survive. And it was
You do.
hard as hell. And, I cried every shift going to work. I cried every shift coming home, as well as the magnitude of what you're dealing with in an ER. And I just thought, yeah, I've pulled the detonation key out of out of the grenade, so I can't go back. So now,
Right.
you have all of that self doubt of the what the hell have I done? And I've destroyed this beautiful illusion that if
It's just
and I'd
it's
been told,
Hallmark movie.
why
Yeah.
why can't you just be happy? Why can't you just play the role that you're meant to play? And
Why
you're
can't you
there
just
just going,
cooperate?
I don't know why I can't, but I just can't anymore. And so you feel like you're going crazy, and you think, well, is this a midlife thing? Is this what's going on? And yes, you've got hormones happening, you've got menopause happening, you've got all this. I mean, it is a perfect storm of either choosing to become, or not. And it got to that point of, I choose to become dot 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 whatever the hell I want to be. So
Mhm.
do it. So do it. Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, you're going to be walking in not knowing whether this is the right step or the wrong step, but for the love of God, walk.
But isn't that what life's all about? I mean, Kate,
It is.
is writing your own story and being authentic about it. And I know
Yeah.
that can be an overused word, and I'm not trying to, candy coated, soften
Right.
it in any way. But how difficult is it, and how damaging is it when you wear a mask and
Yeah.
you pretend to be someone or something that you are not, right?
And you
It's a
dare to ask
horrible
for
message
more.
to your children. It's a
Mm,
horrendous message to the world that you're, being an actress, or, pretending. And nothing wrong with being an actress. When you're
right.
done with the role, go back to who you really are. But we're not actresses.
Right.
This is life. We have
Right.
to be authentic, truthful, honest, real, raw, even if they don't like it. Now, there's a
Right.
nice and a kind and a respectful manner in which to do that. But still, I know that when I'm working with women and men, more and more of my clients are now men, both in mediation when I act as an ADR, alternative dispute resolution private mediator, and working as a certified divorce coach with typically clients that go to trial with conflict that is over the top, with um, hmm, control issues, right? Emotional,
Mm,
psychological, mental control issues. they both have to, at least with me and their attorney, if they're litigating, um, be very firm in their goals and desires and aspirations, and that wishy-washiness, that I don't know what I want, I don't know, you got to get to that point of being able to answer a question from the
Mm,
heart, because they always say they don't know, but I then rephrase the question to, well, I know you don't know right now, but if you did, what would it be?
yeah.
And they answer it like that. So once
No,
you made the decision to divorce, what was how did you manage to get out of that situation? Did you go to trial? Did you mediate? Walk us through that quickly. Like, how did you
um,
end up wrapping it up? Because now you're thriving.
sure.
You're newly engaged. Congratulations.
Thank you.
There is hope and vision and beauty
There is.
on the other side of the hell that you went through. And that's my
Right.
word, not yours, but I understand. Um, so you made this decision. I
I
need to
did.
get a divorce. If I continue down this road of pretending, I can't do it anymore. I just can't. The tipping point came, the rock bottom came. You did your
Right.
preparation, your research, you got organized, you got to, as mentally and pragmatically as much as possible. Did you litigate? Did you file? Like, what was your procedure?
Um, so mine was very different because I had been told this is not happening, and I had to serve him. It was awful with me in the house because otherwise I knew he would dodge it and it wouldn't happen. So I had to put myself at risk and in danger of the what ifs. And but he still said it's never going to happen. It's not. This is not even. You're not doing this. So I went through a default divorce.
Okay.
So I did not probably get the outcome that I could have. But for me at the time, it was, am I going to even survive this? And to me, the most important thing was to survive and to start over. And I didn't have that luxury of even dealing with someone who would even come to the table. So, I did walk away from everything other than, part of the house that we shared. Everything else went to him. Um, and simply because everything had already been funneled out and into his accounts.
So
Um,
you did litigate because you were the plaintiff, he was the defendant, and you did in fact serve him and file.
yes.
And so you were litigating, but basically you settled for whatever he offered you.
No, he didn't offer
He
anything.
did
It
not.
was
So
a default
the
divorce. So
judge made the final say call.
correct,
Okay.
correct.
And why was it that you were not allowed an equitable division of marital assets by default?
Because if I'd done that, I would have had to get a forensic accountant and go through Australian law as well. And
Yeah. Yeah.
there's only so much emotional torture you can put yourself through. And when you're looking at the cost of litigation, and I had paid for this lawyer with sales from my artwork. I mean, it was not a lot,
Sure.
and I had no idea whether I was going to be able to even afford to keep going. And so I had two options: to let it expire and to reserve and to litigate and to have this, that he would make it his mission to destroy me completely, financially and emotionally. Um, as it was, I was told, well, okay, so you got out, but I'll destroy the relationship you have with our children.
Mhm.
So the punishment continues. It's just what you choose to allow affect you. It's like, well, okay, you can do all these things and you can say all these awful things, and yes, he has done enormous damage, but I have no control over that.
No.
And what I do have control over is who I am now, and the life that I choose to live, and the impact I choose to have in helping others, and the role model I choose to be for my children. And you can get money back. You can remake it. It might be humble. It might be, starting from scratch, but so what? That builds character.
Mm.
And look what you've been through. So the rest of it's nothing. If you can get through and you can say, you know what, this is not okay. And I'm more valuable than this. And it's not well, I want this and I want that. And, I'm not the center of attention, so I've got a problem.
Mhm.
No, it's the basic freaking human right of feeling safe emotionally, financially, and if that person can't do that, and the abuse increases to the point where you're not sure you can get through the next day, then do something about it. And if you're fortunate enough to have someone who can mediate, someone who can, like yourself, the service that you offer. I never had that option. I didn't even know that was available. I mean, it could have been enormously helpful. Um, for me, it went through a court.
Everything it shouldn't have been, right?
It was everything it shouldn't have been. It was confronting. I felt the deepest sadness and heartbreak I think I've ever felt.
Yeah.
And you're in a courtroom full of people you don't know, airing your laundry, as a judge says, okay, this marriage is over. And it's, I was with a girlfriend who said, why are you crying? Why aren't you happy? It's like, my whole life has just feels like it's imploded. How can I be happy about it? No, I'm allowed to grieve this.
And you should. That's how we heal.
Right. And I'm allowed to be devastated, and I'm allowed to be
Sad.
on my knees and ready to start again
Yeah.
because it meant something,
The
you know?
phoenix will rise. The phoenix will rise.
And I think it's important to not be dismissive of what was there in the beginning
Sure.
and what you've, genuinely felt for that person. And you're grieving something that
Yeah.
didn't end the way you wanted it to end and didn't happen and didn't, but you can't stay there. You can't stay there. You have to, I got very disciplined with what I call dodging the rabbit holes. And you dodge the rabbit holes because you go down that rabbit hole and it is just a constant rumination of despair, of the what ifs. And if you get stuck in the what ifs, that mindset of constant ponderings and constant, if I'd done this, would it have been different? If I'd done this, what if, should I have tried harder? Should I have done this? Shouldn't I have done that? And that constant rumination with no resolve is what depression is.
Absolutely. Right.
And if you
Walking in what coulda, woulda, should have happened, right? Now, there's a
see,
bit of
see
these
there.
stages of grieving. There is a place for some reflection,
Mm,
because then we do not get to the place of what is the lesson. I
mm,
never want to be that client or that professional that wants a return client.
mm,
So people do need to learn, like, ooh, how did I get here? And how do I prevent this from happening again?
mm,
Right? Once we get past the shock and the denial and the sadness and the negotiating and bargaining and the anger, and we get to a place of surrender and letting go and acceptance, it's now what
mm,
is the lesson? But you're never going to heal if you don't go through those stages of grieving and
mm,
acknowledging how you feel. Your experiences were authentic and real. There I go with that word
mm,
again. But you lived them. the best way for you to start, and I don't mean you, Kate, but anyone listening, is to try to create what I call a historical timeline of your marriage. Now, mine ended up being a memoir, but whether you start with the day you met,
Mm,
where were you? What attracted you to that person? Why did you get married to them? What were you seeking in yourself, in your life?
mm,
And and reevaluating that to now, okay, that was X amount of years ago. Who am I now versus who was I? Do the work now. Otherwise, you're going to go through the same pattern again and again. The lesson will not be learned and there will be regret. And,
right.
look at the resiliency of just Kate's story here. That she's engaged to be married. She's got a wonderful career. You do come out the other side. And
Mm,
just as that butterfly has jagged edges, which is our story. Nothing is smooth and silky and perfect all the time. There is going to be a jagged edge at some point in your life to get
right.
you from stuck and trapped and angry and sad and sick,
Mm,
wherever you're feeling, to feeling a sense of movement and transformation so that you feel alive and feeling a
right.
purpose and longing and calling. Um, Anybody can take something tragic and turn it into a mission statement, a purposeful statement of
Mm.
endearment to help make other people on point with theirs too.
Well,
So it's
I
really
think,
important. I love that you've been able to move past that,
right.
with your cancer story, with your dad, and then helping other people as a
Mm,
nurse, a cancer coach. Didn't even know there was such a thing. So if anybody has anyone in their family that is going through cancer, I suggest you reach out to Kate for help with that. This is really something that is so needed. And people always say, oh, I wish I knew there were divorce coaches. Yes, hell, so did I. I wish I knew about ADR and private mediation. So did I. Um, it does take two to tango. And if one person is being maniacal and coercive and secretive and will not fill out the domestic relations financial affidavit, then ADR is still possible if you can still walk down that walk. But a lot of it has to do with that. How long have you been married? Do
mm,
you have minor children? What are the assets? Are you gainfully employed? And are you willing to just turn away, walk away with yourself and your um, DNA and your mind and your heart intact? Or do you really think that you deserve, the maybe deserve isn't the right word, to be valued as a contributing factor of the success of the marriage?
mm,
Meaning, if you contributed for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years to the success of the marriage financially, you should be valued for that, whether the marriage failed or succeeded. There's value in that. So it's always tricky. You've got to find the
mm,
right professionals to give you. That's why I have a 6 foot by 4 foot whiteboard in my office where I dissect marriages and really look at it from every scope. What would the judge say? What is it you want? What is it you're seeking? What's in the best interest of the children long term? Because yes, short term, it's never going to be fun, but it doesn't have to be so damaging. I
mm,
help people. I mediated a case yesterday. They were only married 9 months. 9 months, people. No children. And it got emotional and sticky and
mm,
long. But we got through it, and I got the MOA written, and neither of them are ever going to have to step foot in a courtroom. They don't have to litigate.
mm.
It's an
Amazing.
uncontested amicable divorce. It wasn't fun. They're not friends, don't get me wrong. Yeah, that's why I'm there. To let them, I intervene when I must, and I let them have awkward space when I must. In fact, one of them said to me, aren't you going to intervene, Paulette or John? And I go, no, you're actually making really good progress. Because there were tears, there was feelings, there was emotions. I was refereeing, if that's the word, negotiating. I was that facilitator to hold sacred space for both of them to feel heard and seen, because it wasn't just for this person or that person. They both need to be heard and seen. And, no one person is 100% wrong for the demise of a marriage. Maybe it's only a 0.1%, but there is still a responsibility of both parties to contribute, and sometimes you just check out. I know myself, I checked out. I was just like, listen, I made a mistake. This was wrong. I'm done. I don't advocate that anyone, but I totally own the part that I played in the demise of my relationship. And are there ramifications and repercussions? Absolutely. And I own them and I live them. And that's one of the reasons I do this work. So the repercussions can be smaller and more limiting, less traumatic, less expensive, and more successful. So, what is the best way for people to learn more about you and follow you and work with you and connect with you?
I appreciate that. My website is under Nurse Coach Kate with a K at gmail.com is my email. And then nursecoachkate.com is my website. So,
Easy, easy.
yeah,
nursecoachkate.com.
yeah, made
So
it
much.
easy.
I makes me want to, and I have butterfly bushes right out. There's my window here, right outside my window with a little garden, and I always have these beautiful butterflies that come and visit me every day, and little hummingbirds too. And I'm always reminded of the transformation from the caterpillar to the butterfly.
I love
So
that.
thank you for sharing your story, Kate.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. There's a reason that Shelley said, Paulette, you've got to talk to Kate. And Shelley said to you, you've got to talk to Paulette. So thank you, everyone, for listening. You know me. If you are contemplating divorce, work with me. Don't struggle. And you can at least get my book, Better Divorce Blueprint, the book, the workbook, the audiobook on Amazon, and my course, Better Divorce Blueprint, is coming out so soon. My assistant just gave me the rough draft of the landing page. Needs a little love, a little tweaking here and there. But for those of you that are either intimidated to work with me, don't know why you would be, but I get it. Or it's too expensive. I try to keep it very affordable, but still I try to make sure everybody has a way to get that wealth of knowledge without, hey, if you can't sit in my chair right here in my office, you can still work with me. As a coach, going through litigation or planning for divorce, and you really want to dot your I's and cross your T's, get all of your ducks in a row and make sure you know exactly what you're doing. Or if you and your spouse just want to mediate and avoid litigation, well, look no further. Better Divorce Academy. So thank you, Kate. And until next time, make it better.